What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Growler Hour. I am your host, Growlers play-by-play broadcaster, Chris Ballard. So happy you all decided to join us here tonight, and we all hope that you are staying safe out there during these crazy, trying times. So before we get to tonight's jam-packed show, I would like to share first some show news for you all. First and foremost, this very show that you all have come to know and love, Growler Hour, is now a TV show. Our local Rogers station here in St. John's, that's the same station that has served as the TV home of the Growlers for the last two seasons, has picked up, Growler Hour, to be a TV show. We're all super excited, all kinds of hard work, but super glad that we get to come at you through another platform. So the way it's going to work, at least for now, we're going to keep streaming these shows here for you on Thursday nights at 7 p.m., same Growler time, same Growler channel. And then basically we're going to send our boys in the office to work. They're going to gussy it all up and put it out there, a nice polished version of it on Saturdays at 9 p.m. and again at Sundays at 11. Keep your eyes peeled on the Growler social media channels. We'll be sure to keep you up to date on all of that. And with being a TV show compared to being an internet program, you get some help coming up with some really awesome guests. So with that being said, I will tease you the next two guests we have on next week's program. Super excited. Not only do we have John Snowden, head coach of the Growlers, coming on to join us, we have a really special guest, someone who I'm super excited to get a chance to speak with. You've seen him lately on In Conversation on Rogers Sportsnet. You know him from Hockey Night in Canada and Rogers Hometown Hockey. Ron McLean will be on next week's show, and again with John Snowden. So set your dials. You're not going to want to miss that one, starting right here, 7 p.m. right here, twitch.tv/NL Growlers. Make sure you subscribe or follow, or whichever one you're supposed to do. I think it's follow. I don't want to talk about any of that anymore. I want to get to tonight's guests. What a show we have for tonight. We're changing it up a bit. We're having our first ever three-way conversation here. It's going to be so much fun. So please welcome to Growler Hour, a pair of Kelly Cup champions. We've got defenseman Sam Jardine and your playoff MVP local legend, Zach O'Brien. Fellas, welcome to Growler Hour.
Thanks for having us, Ballard.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
Good to see you both. Sam, let's jump in with you. It's been longer since we've seen you. How have you been, man? I'm sure it's been, you're in the same boat as the rest of us, having to put up with a shortened season and the whole COVID situation, but how you holding up? Where are you right now? Kind of put it together for us.
Yeah, I'm fantastic. I'm in Lacombe, Alberta, back home. Like you said, our season got canceled with about 10 regular season games left in Cardiff there. And so nice that we could get on for the TV episode. I know Zach loves doing media so much, we had to take it to another platform. So.
And Zach, same question. It's been, feels like only yesterday we were sitting in the hotel in Brampton waiting to see if we were going to be catching that bus to Kalamazoo. A wild few weeks here. Kind of, what? How have you been? How's you doing?
I'm good. It definitely gets boring after a while, but I'm trying to get some home workouts in as best as I can. I was able to take some equipment from our gym at the rink, so that's nice. I'm playing a lot more Xbox than I've ever played, that's for sure. A lot of Call of Duty and a lot of NHL. I'm better than Marcus at both. I hope you're watching, Marcus. Just zooming with friends, basically. Zoom is a huge thing now. Me and Jared have Zoomed a couple times already, so just trying to get through it, staying safe, following the rules. And like you said, it does feel like yesterday we were in Brampton trying to wait to see what's going to happen with the season. And I feel like we were just starting to kick it into playoff mode there towards the end. And to have that happen, it sucks, but everyone needs to stay safe and wait for all this to be over.
No, absolutely. So I want to share a bit of the backstory on how we ended up with this three-way conversation here. So I'd reached out to Zach to try and get him on the show, and he said, "Belly, let's get someone else on to have a chat with me, you know, and so we can keep the conversation going." I said, "Yeah, no problem." And he asked for you, Sam, right off the bat. So and then that led to, in the week leading up to this show, we've had kind of a three-way text going between the three of us. You've been sending pictures back and forth. It's clear that you guys were really good friends, and that's why this is going to work out so well for us. But kind of tell me a bit about the bromance here between Sam Jardine and Zach O'Brien. How did you guys get to be so close? Sam, I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it began in training camp. We're the same age. Actually, we go back even further to a time that I didn't even know, but we played against each other in the TELUS Cup in 2010. I didn't find that out until much later, but that would be the first time that our paths crossed. Then when I was in Toronto early in the season, he got called up and we were living in the hotel together. And then when I got sent down, we just bonded that way. I suppose maybe because in my first few games down there, we went into overtime a few times, and I ended up getting these like measly second assists from just giving Zach the puck and him going and getting OT winners. So I figured, you know, maybe this is a wagon that I could latch on to. It would be a good professional decision.
And that certainly worked out for you. Zach, same question. What's your side of the story here?
Oh, Jared basically said it, but yeah, we played against each other in the TELUS Cup. We didn't know each other back then, obviously, and like Jared said, we figured that out. I think it was a week after we won Kelly Cup, was it not, Jared? Or no?
Yeah.
So it started there, and then I feel like we played against each other a bunch in our professional careers. I think when he was in Colorado, we played against them, and they absolutely waxed us, I think, when I was in Wichita. They were a good team. And then in training camp with the Leafs, and when I got called up to Toronto, we lived together in a hotel, so we go out to eat together, stuff like that. And then when he got sent down, I was obviously pumped. The team was pumped to be getting a stud defenseman like Jared's, and he came down, and he was just a true professional the whole time, on and off the ice. And I'm sure a lot of the younger guys seen his habits, I guess. He's just, the way he takes care of himself, it's special. Not a lot of people can do it. And he was a stud for us all playoffs. And we obviously won and enjoyed ourselves after. And we've been best friends ever since. So.
I love it. We're going to pick a lot of that apart. So what I want to do, I essentially want to serve tonight as the tour guide, as we relive the whole Kelly Cup journey through a couple of champions here tonight. I want to take you guys both back to your first days as a Growler. And Zach, I want to start with you. For you, that was obviously in Growler training camp. Brand new team. You're the local guy. You got a couple of buddies and Marcus and James Melindy there. Kind of what was the vibe for you coming onto this brand new team? It's cool to play at home. First training camp. I know Chloe was intense. Everyone tells that story. Kind of put it together. What was the vibe of the first few days that the Growlers, I guess, existed for you?
First few days of the Growlers training camp, you asked?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was obviously pumped. I never thought I would have got the chance to play professional hockey in my hometown. But for a lot of us, it was our third training camp. So we became close just over 3 camps like anyone would. We're in hotels together. We're eating together. We're on the ice every day together. So that was our third camp. So once we got to Growlers camp, we kind of knew what our team was going to be like, and there was a lot of talent there.
Oh, yeah.
So we were just looking forward to get the season going. A lot of people didn't really know what to expect from Newfoundland, but once they played their first game or they went out to eat them, whatever, they realized how special it is here, how good the fans are, and how nice just everyone is. You could run into a stranger and have a half-hour conversation with them, no sweat, you know? So all the boys fell in love with it, and then, like you said, I was able to play with Marcus and Melindy and Pards, which is awesome. me and Pards and Marcus trained together for a lot of years. And me and Marcus, as everyone knows, we go way back. And with Mellor, growing up, we played against each other in minor hockey. And
No.
I'm sure it's not hard to believe that we didn't really like each other. Our styles of play kind of clashed. So
I guess
it was his job to kind of not let me score or do whatever. So we weren't the best of friends back then, but over the last 2 years, for sure, we became really close. And now he's definitely going to be a friend for life. So, and when it comes to Chloe, I've known Chloe for a long time. So I know how intense he is, but I'm sure he gave a few of the young guys a fright at the opening meeting at training camp. Everyone knew not to mess around or it's not going to be good. And Chloe was great. I hope he's doing well. And I'm sure even though he wasn't with us for the full time, a lot of guys learned a lot from him.
No, they sure did. And Sam, before we get to yours, I do want to give a shout out. I do believe, I don't think there's too many guys in the Twitch chat who are going to be saying it's Ellie. So I think we've got Hudson Ellenuk tuning in. So Ellie, if you're here and you have any questions or anything you want to get in on the boys here, I got your back. Let me know. Let me know in the chat here. Jards, your Growler initiation came a little later on. You first joined the team in February from the Marlies at a time that I think was pretty crucial. You came in during that Fort Wayne series. We don't have to go down memory lane there, but what was the vibe with you coming down? I know you obviously knew a lot of the guys on the team. You're obviously coming on to what ended up being a powerhouse of a team. What was your first Growlers experience like?
Yeah, it's actually one of my most vivid memories is that first weekend because it was special. And I knew Snowy from the season previous because he was coaching in Orlando and he was actually running the D. So we had a really good relationship. And, when Newfoundland was coming into Toronto and they would do their development skates, I would actually see Snowy quite a bit. And he would keep saying, we're trying to get your rights. We're trying to get your rights because my ECHL rights were traded, I think, to the Allen Americans. Right. So that first weekend down, I was going down there with an open mind, and I spent a good amount of time in the ECHL in years previous, and especially playing against the Fort Wayne Comets, who is a very tough team. So I knew going down right away that we were in for a big test. And I'd been following along and I heard great things about the team that was in Newfoundland. And we won the first game, lost the second game. And then that Saturday afternoon, 3-3 it's an absolute grind. And I believe we were in the game. And I remember thinking like this room's got guts. Like this team has guts. And I love that. And then later on, 15, 20 minutes after the win, all the boys, the entire team is talking where are we going for dinner, for drinks. I love that. And I mean, there must have been like maybe 19 out of 21 guys together that Sunday night after a 3-3. I was like, I had already figured out from that Fort Wayne series, one of the toughest teams to play against in the league, that we probably had what it took on the ice. And then that night I figured out, we had what it took as a group off the ice as well. So,
yeah, that's a gutsy performance. You played 3 games in 2.5 days and you win that last one 1-0 in overtime is what it was. And I remember Eric Levine, future Growler goaltender, was the goalie in the opposite net. Sorry, Levs, we'll have you on the show maybe sometime soon. I want to lock in. I want to fast forward a little bit. Obviously, the Growlers kind of rolled through the regular season a little bit. First place in the division. The last 5 games of the regular season, that kind of home stretch to the playoffs. Jards, you came back down. This was your second stint then with the Growlers after that first one, that February. And the Growlers kind of stumbled down the stretch a bit. Did that, Zach, we'll come back to you to start this one off. What was the vibe heading down the stretch? The playoff spot had been locked up for a couple of weeks, I think. We kind of knew, who we were going to play. I think it was the only time all year the team had lost 3 straight games. Did doubt ever creep into your mind down the stretch in the regular season?
No, I don't think there was any doubt. we played every game like it was a playoff game, regular season or not. We wanted to win every game. Like you said, we had first place clinched for a while, but leading in the playoffs, we were just focused on playing our game and not getting into bad habits for games. I guess they're not really meaningless, but if we lose, we're still in first place. You know what I mean? So when we had a tough stretch through those last 5 games, I don't think we doubted ourselves at all, because we knew what we did all year. We knew the group of guys that we had, and I think the biggest thing was we were just excited to get playoffs going. And I feel like, I'm sure you're going to ask this now in a second, but that Brampton series was an absolute battle.
Oh, we're getting there. Jards, anything to add to that? Or is that pretty much sum it up, the home stretch?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I think losing a couple of those games on the road at the end of the year might have just refocused our group. So,
yeah,
I mean, I guess that would have been the silver lining of it. You don't want to lose any games, but I mean, our focus was on the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. Those losses were an opportunity for maybe some of the leadership group to step up and say, like, playoff hockey's right around the corner. It's going to get even harder, and we're going to need guys to really step up, because the way that this last weekend went is just not going to do it. So.
Absolutely. So, I mean, yeah, Obi, we're going to get to it. We're going to talk about the Brampton series. Zach, we'll come back to you. In short, was that maybe the toughest series? Because I remember they were all close games. The Brampton goaltender, Etienne Marcoux, was unbelievable. I know it's tough to say it's tougher than the finals or any of the other rounds ahead, but Brampton was a real opponent.
Yeah, like you said, it's tough to say that it was the toughest, because we had 3 more rounds after that, but it definitely didn't feel like a first-round matchup, that's for sure. Going into the series, everyone knew that we didn't like each other. We played against each other so much during the season and battled, so there was a rivalry already started. And I think 3 games went to overtime in that series. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
So that just goes to show how tight the series is. There was a couple of games there, I feel like, you said Etienne Marcoux was unbelievable, and he was. I feel like we put 40, 50 shots on him, and he was just standing on his head. For me personally, I'm not sure how many goals I scored in the series. I think it was just a couple, but he had my number for a lot of it, yeah. So, I mean, to say it was I can't really say it's the toughest, but it's definitely in the question for sure.
Jard, it's kind of the same question. Sum up your experience of that opening round.
Well, yeah, I mean, we went up 3-0, but it was, I mean, all 3 of those games were extremely difficult to win. And talking to a friend of mine that was on Brampton after the series, I don't think even though they were down 3-0, they had never lost any hope in the series, because they knew a bounce here or a bounce there, it could have been 3-0 for them. So we could never really get a hold of the momentum of the series, even though we were up 3-0. I know that sounds strange, but it was just the truth of it. And then they won their 2 games, and I felt like the momentum of the series was really trending in the wrong direction. We did have a young team. I felt like we were extremely nervous before Game 6. But with that being said, focused. And we ended up squeezing it out in Game 6. But, boy, I would not have wanted that series to go to Game 7. That would have been, I don't know whether, when you got up 3-0 and now it could have been 3-3, it would have been extremely nerve-wracking. So glad we finished it when we did.
No kidding. And I don't want to glaze over. Zach, you ended the longest game in Growlers history in Game 3, the only ever Growlers game to go to double overtime. What do you remember about that goal there?
I remember being gassed. No, I do remember it. Garrett Johnson took it from behind our net and had some speed, which you don't really see a lot in double overtimes, but he found an extra gear there. He headbutted to Marcus, and Marcus didn't even look. He kicked it out wide and knew I'd be there. And I was able to cut 90, and Johnny actually kept skating and put a nice pick on the defender for me. Gave me a little bit of space, and I was able to put it over his blocker. And I'm surprised I had enough energy to celebrate, honestly, but I did. And that was definitely a big win for us for sure.
I rewatched that this morning, and you were the only one who felt like with any energy, and it just all disappeared off the end of your stick in that shot. And thank God, maybe. That series had a little bit of everything. We talked about this before we went on the air. Even in game 2, that was the first game that went to overtime. And we were saying, like, yeah, Fergie scored, I think, but neither one of us could really remember how it went in until I reminded you. It was a junk goal. 18 seconds in, Marcus Power throws it on goal. It gets through Marcoux, and Fergie's there and just kind of taps it in. I mean, Jards, what do you remember about that?
Fergie's OT goal or Zach's?
We'll go back to Fergie's here. Right? Actually,
Yeah.
go game 2 and game 3. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I remember Fergie's just being like, I think I was on the ice for it. So but I was like 3 zones behind the play, and remember thinking, like, when Powell put it on, like, I don't think he swallowed that up. Next thing you know, like, Fergie was the only guy in the building that knew where it was and just pokes it home. So it was like 10 seconds for me to skate down the ice to go and celebrate with him. But I mean, as far as Zach's goal goes, when he's talking about being gassed and not sure where the energy comes for that last play, well, him and Michael Gartag would be on the ice for like an hour after practice working on shootout drills and shooting drills, half wall, come to the slot and shoot drills, you name it. And I'm kind of a guy that likes to stay on the ice late and stay active and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's no surprise for me that he found the extra gear because of all the extra time and effort that he would spend out there with Garts scoring goals, even when, forearms, wrist got to be tired. So,
no kidding. We'll glaze over, games 4 and 5, 4-1 loss and an 8-2 loss. We all knew that kind of scared us all a little bit coming back home, but game 6, back in your building. I mean, Zach, we'll come back to you. I know I got a bug in my throat here tonight. Let me mute myself and deal with this a second. Live TV. So we're going to come back to game 6. Sam, I know you mentioned, obviously everyone was nervous, but Zach, I'm pretty sure the nervousness went away pretty quickly once we got underway.
Yeah, we were pumped to get back home for game 6, especially after how the last 2 games went. I agree with Jared. We were a young team, and guys were definitely nervous at the beginning. But once we got into the series and felt it out a little bit, I remember how fired up everyone was to play that game 6, and we knew we were going to end it that night. The boys played great. I think Hudson, Ellie, if you're still there.
Plug your ears for what's coming.
You took a big hit for us there, end of the third, and we got a power play off it. And Jared was actually one that scored with an absolute laser.
Let's jump into it, Sam. I mean, it didn't take long into overtime, snuck one in the post. I did not expect it to go in on that play, especially how good Marcoux was down the stretch. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to take us through that one. That's gave me one of my favorite calls of my career, if I can say so. Put it together for us from your point of view.
Well, so it was power play, right? Because, like Zach said, Ellie took a high hit at the end of the third period. So we had our 5-minute major to start, and I'll tell you the story that's in my head, and then maybe we can get to the reality of it after. But I knew Zach had been struggling all series to score. And if you look at the replay of the goal, I'm actually on the right half wall, which is where he kind of made his home all regular season and playoffs. But I thought, in this situation with the game on the line, maybe I should go over there and shoot the puck this time. So, but no, to be honest, I don't know. It was off of a dump in. I ended up on the half wall for some reason. Fergie, I think, was at the point where I was supposed to be, gives it to me. And I noticed we had traffic in front. I think Zach was on the left flank coming in towards the net. And I shot an ice burner right along the ice, going for a rebound. And then as soon as I did that, I was planning on going back to my point where I like quarterbacking from up there. It ended up going in. I barely knew it went in. And I think my celebration sort of shows that too, because I just stuck my hand up in the air like I think we won, guys. So yeah, that was I mean, it's a fantastic memory. I love scoring goals. I wish I did it more often. Unfortunately, I don't know if I was born with that genetic, but yeah.
So Zach, you were on the ice. What do you remember seeing of that play and how it established?
Jared's looking me off in the scene. No. Like Jared said, we were kind of out of sorts in our positioning. Fergie was the D-man. Jared's was on my flank, and I was on Fergie's flank. So, I mean, Jared's obviously made the right decision to get a shot on net, and if it doesn't go in, we get set up in our normal spots and go from there. But it was a smart shot. I'm sure me and Gio, whoever else, if there was a rebound, we were there to put it in, but Jared's don't need rebounds. Ice burner.
I love that. The ice burner. Maybe a new nickname for you, Jards. I'm going to move on to the Manchester series. 7-0-1 against Manchester in the regular season. That's pretty comfortable. Sam, I don't know how many of those games you would have been a part of. Maybe down the stretch, I remember there was a couple lost in a shootout. That was the 0-1 at the end of the record there. What was the vibe heading into the Manchester series, especially after a bit of a dramatic finish to the Brampton series?
Oh boy. I think a confident group for sure. Everybody could just take a breath. We kind of got to hit the reset button, remember sort of like why we're successful. You know, you get this clean slate. I don't think anybody was too proud of themselves about the way we won round one, but nonetheless, we were there. And I thought guys sort of like settled in a little bit, started to have more fun. We got back to that loosey-goosey, successful group that we were. And we kind of just went to work and started to have a lot more fun doing it. Like round one wasn't fun at all. And I know you wanted to glance over games 5 and 6, games 4 and 5 in Toronto, but like with the young group that we have and the development that we have, like we had the full Toronto brass sitting up in the barn, and Brampton it's an empty arena, and so out of the 200 or 300 fans, you have 10 of the top brass from the Toronto Maple Leafs watching you.
Oh my God.
You can't underestimate the sort of the way you grip a stick when that's happening sometimes, especially with a young group. Most of the guys have been playing at the ECHL level all year, so they're not used to having Kyle Dubas up in the press box watching them, and Lawrence Gilman, the way that, you know, maybe somebody on the Marley. So yeah, round one was just flat out not fun. And I think the Manchester series, we got back to the thing that made us the most successful, which is just going out, having a great time for each other, with each other. And for that reason, I think we did really good in that series.
So, Zach, what was that like for you playing against a team? Well, I mean, you played for the Monarchs in Manchester when they were in the American League. Kind of what was that like getting to play against them in the playoffs, in the ECHL? Bit of a weird vibe. Kind of what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was a little different. I played 2 years in that arena, and we ended up winning a championship there, actually. So it was pretty cool to go back. I think there might be only one person that still works for the team when I was there. Yeah, so there was a lot of new faces, but it was still cool to get back. I remember talking to some fans after the game that still remembered the team we had back then, so that was pretty cool. And I guess to be able to beat them is the cherry on top. And like Jared said, it was way more fun of a series than the Brampton one. For me personally, it was probably my best series when it comes to the points and goals and stuff like that. So I feel like I really found my stride during that series. Did we drop game one?
We did 3-2 at home. The only time we trailed the entire postseason.
Really? Yeah. So I remember dropping game one, and needing to win game 2, and we did. And I feel like we didn't look back after that.
Well, I'm not going to let you get away from maybe the most memorable goal for me for the whole postseason run, and there were a lot of dandies in there. And, Jards, I know you and I talked about this one off the draw, late in Game 2, right off the draw set play. Obi snaps it over the blocker of Charles Williams, but you told me you knew that was going to happen. You had a premonition of some kind. You got to tell me your side of the story here.
It's the closest I've been to a psychic, and I couldn't find enough guys to like tell after the game or after it happened. But it was a bizarre feeling. I was the left defenseman, and we had the draw on the right circle, right offensive circle, and they called the quick shot face off, and it works perfectly with Fergie as a lefty taking the face off. Obi as the right shot can just do the quick release. Me and Goodbranson are going out. It's late in the game. I think we're tied. So we were in that moment as a defenseman, you're kind of just like, well, let's go lock it down. You know, like we're just not going to be the guys to lose it. Obviously, Zach, he wants to think a little differently. I'm going to be the guy to win it. So they call offensive play off of the offensive draw. And like 3 or 4 seconds before the face-off, I was like, game over. You know, like it was like, we're winning this clean, and I had the perfect angle for it. Like, we're winning this clean, and Zach's scoring. And, 6 seconds later, sure enough, it was like an out-of-body experience. Very bizarre.
I mean, Zach, normally I would say take us through the play, but I mean, that's a pretty simple one all the same. But I mean, just take us through the play.
Well, it was late in the game. We were tied, like Jared said. Me, Fergie, and Marcus, I think, went out there with Jards and Goody, and it was on the right side. Me and Fergie, we've been playing, we were line mates the whole year, so we just had to look at each other, and we knew what play we were going to do. So I lined up behind him, and a lot of the times it's tough to win a face-off that clean where it's like right in your wheelhouse. So sometimes you got to dust it off, and if that was the case, I would have just slid it over to Jards. But he literally won it back perfect. Like, it was like a pass almost. And like, it almost caught me off guard, but I mean, I was ready for it and put it where I wanted to, and that would have been one of the hardest I've sellied for any goal in my career, I would say. I'm not a huge selly guy. But I think I yelled at the top of my lungs after that. I'm pretty sure.
I think there's a pretty good picture of you just full, like 300 level screaming. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, John, if we have that one in the queue, now would be the time to fire that one up for the fans here. But it really did seem like that was a turning point in that series. Game 3 was a 4-2 win in Manchester. That game was pretty much under control the whole way. Again, I'm not trying to glaze over big wins here. Game 4 was a 4-3 win in Manchester. The only loss I'll say not in Manchester, but on the road in that series was another weird game that stands out for me, playing in Exeter, which is like an hour outside of Manchester. I think they had monster trucks or something in their building. We had to play in this community rink in Exeter, not too far away. Sam, we'll come back to you. What do you remember of that? That's kind of kooky for a playoff game, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And the only thing that I remember from that is going to take a routine body check and getting squished up against the boards that had absolutely no give. And so I actually ended up injuring my hip from just a routine finish check and had to deal with that for all of the rest of playoffs and that entire summer. And actually it lingered into the following season in Cardiff just because of a nothing play. I thought it was that just not a good memory. We lost that game in overtime. It's just not a good memory from that rink at all.
I mean, Zach, same question to you. I mean, it's certainly the most interesting place I've ever had to call a game from. I was in like the corner on like top of the canteen there. What's your memory of that very unique game?
I remember it being cold.
Oh yeah.
Walking to the arena for the game and you could see your breath. You know, it's like a minor hockey rink. That's what it felt like. I felt like I was playing at Twin Rinks down the road. But funny story about one of the games there. I remember I scored on a breakaway, and I went to Selly, and I absolutely leveled the ref. I don't know if you could find the clip of that, John, but I remember I absolutely blew the ref up, and it hurt. It had to hurt him. He's freezing cold. He had to be feeling that for a little bit.
I'm going to have to go back and review the tape for that one. I got to see that for myself. Back home after that overtime loss for Game 6, a game that we never were going to lose, 5-1 to move on. Zach, you had a hat trick. I'll come back to you for this one. I mean, that was the game. I think you scored in every game that series, but that was the big hurrah. I mean, what went well that game for the Growlers?
Everything went well that game for us, I think. We were just like Brent, we finished the job at home against Brampton in Game 6, so we learned our lessons from that series, and I feel like we played even better in the Game 6 against Manchester, like you said, a 5-1 win, and I feel like we played great all of that series, honestly, but I feel like Game 6 was our best game as a team for sure.
I mean, Sam, what do you, he's a pretty humble guy, but a hat trick in a decisive game from your boy here. I mean, that's some special stuff.
Yeah, it was early and often, and it just, I mean, as a defenseman, brings me back to thinking like, man, it's awesome to play with sick forwards. Like, just like it's a really good feeling when, as a defenseman, you know, like as long as I just do my part keeping the puck out, we're gonna win this game. Let these forwards do their job. You know, call them selfish. I never like calling goal scorers like, oh, he's sort of selfish points guy. You have to score to win games, and I'm not very good at scoring goals, so that's why I love playing on teams with sick goal scorers.
We certainly had one, and that goal scoring continued into the Florida series. Now, when I was poking you guys all week for topics, Jards, you came back and said, yeah, I want to talk about the Florida series and the hate that really brewed there. I mean, so we'll start with you for this one. I mean, that was, I'll ask this, were we expecting that physical a series? Because you had played against them, I guess, a fair bit with Orlando. Yeah. You kind of knew their MO. Were we expecting that level from the reigning Eastern Conference champs?
Yeah, I mean, I personally was, and I think Snowy was as well. That was the we went through a pretty extensive pre-scout of teams, and going into that series, you know, we knew they were going to poke, you know, be trying to walk that line of, borderline dirty. And especially when we started to take control of the series with our speed and our skill and our intelligence, is when they sort of started trying to goon it up. To me personally, I have no problem saying it was one of the most embarrassing on ice performances that I've seen from a group of players. I'll stick to that, no problem. I think it was Game 5, or Game 4, that Zach got the hat trick, and it was just like one guy after another guy after another guy to the penalty box for flat out dirty plays, and they're starting to complain about reffing. I mean, it was just a joke. But honestly, yeah, it was so nice. The whole series, we were just focused on, all I want to do is go and shake these guys' hands. You know, like they can say anything they want. They can take their runs after the puck is gone, or, you know, one guy who's the stick's getting high, all that sort of stuff. I just wanted to shake the guys' hands. And that was all I needed, you know, like, your season's over, we're going to the finals.
That's so perfect. I love that. And Zach, I'm curious for you, as obviously a goal scorer, all it would take is one look at the stat sheet and say, hey, we have to take a look at this guy. Do you remember, were you on the receiving end of a lot of maybe some of that energy, we'll call it?
Yeah, I think every time they got a chance to hit me or do something dirty, they did. And I definitely felt it. But that stuff doesn't get to me, and it didn't get to anyone on our team. We were focused on our game, and we were disciplined. We didn't let any of that stuff get to us, and we ended up taking it home in 5 games. I got to give a shout out to Gartz. Gartz had 3 shutouts that series, and they knew how good Gartz was coming in, so they were trying to get in his head as well and taking runs at him, stuff like that. He didn't let any of it phase him and just stood on his head the whole series. And he was definitely our best player in that series for sure.
A year ago today, on this day in Growlers history, we were flying home from Florida, up 2-0 in the series, a 2-0 win in game 1. I remember Gio scored late in the 3rd period, kind of a low, hard shot. That gave the first win, kind of blew him up in a very physical game 2, 5-1 win. I'll say this, was that the turning point? Jards, will come back to you. Was that the turning point, beating them both games in their building, especially seeing them as frustrated as they were after game 2, knowing we're in their heads a little bit? Was that the turning point of that series for you?
Well, yeah, game 1 was massive. Because they were a very confident group. I think they felt that they had the team to win it all. I think once you get to that far in the playoffs, obviously, I mean, those are two titans going against each other, really. So there was like a feeling out process with game 1. And like you said, 0-0 the whole way with our, we got the bounce, we got that first goal, and really we never looked back after that. And then, like I said, the speed, the skill, the intelligence, the cohesiveness, and chemistry of our team really took over. And I think the only way that they thought they were going to get back in the series is if they could intimidate us. And we just have way too high character. Nobody was going to ever run us out of the rink. We may not run you out of the rink, but we're certainly not going to shy away from that sort of style of game.
No, absolutely. And then came home, lost the only game of the series in game 3 in a game I remember that I think we probably could have had. And then games 4 and 5, 6-0 win, another Zach O'Brien hat trick, no big deal, and a 3-0 win in game 5, outscoring them 9-0 at home the last 2 days to clinch that place in the finals. I mean, what was it like coming home? Zach, we'll start with you. Knowing that, we got some space in their heads, 2 big wins to close it out. What do you remember about claiming that Eastern Conference championship at home again?
It was an amazing feeling to finish at home again. Like you said, winning those first 2 games on the road was massive, especially in a place like Florida. I remember the first shift of game 1, like, pretty clear, and me and Marcus both got rocked in the first shift, like, laid out. We got back to the bench and we were like, okay, like, we're in one here. Like, this is going to be a battle. But we ended up winning those 2 games, and then to finish it off back home was amazing. And we wish we could have started the finals the next day. I think that's how excited we were. But winning in 5 instead of 6 gave us a few extra days of rest and recovery, which was huge for us in the finals, I feel.
No, for sure. And Zach, I mean, another hat trick for you in that 6-0 game. A lot went well that game. I mean, what do you remember? What did you have for breakfast? Put it all together for me, man. That's 2 pretty big days in back-to-back series. Certainly a big part of your MVP pedigree, if you will. I mean, what do you remember about that day? What led you to that day?
I don't think anything in particular. I was just really excited to play, to be honest. I got to give credit to my line mates and our power play in that game, because our power play was clicking and they were living in the box. So Marcus, Fergie, Gio, Jards, Pools, everyone was just happened to find me that game, and I was able to get another hat trick, like you said. But a couple of them were pretty easy. I was just in the right spot at the right time and having good teammates and line mates, so it's all credit to them.
And Jard, speaking of line mates, I know most of the postseason you were paired with the officer, Alex Goodbranson. I mean, talk about Goody. What did he bring to this team? I don't want to forget anybody along the way, but I mean, you two were super complimentary to each other.
Yeah, and another guy that I had played with in Orlando the season prior, so it was an easy fit. I thought Snowy made a good decision to put us together right away, obviously knowing each other from the season before. But I know for a fact he's not going to hear this because he's probably in like some bunker in Ontario right now preparing for the apocalypse. But he's a fantastic D partner, one of the best pure defensive defensemen that I've ever played with, been a part of. He will always have your back. As far as like, it's not often, and I don't think I'm an offensive defenseman, but in my situation in Newfoundland, I thought that I was able to go out and try a lot of things just because I knew Goody always had my back. And, for that reason, he's just one of those heart and soul D partners that I love playing with.
Absolutely. And then on to the finals against the Toledo Walleye. And Zach, heading into the finals, I mean, I'm curious to know how much of the gravitas of the situation you felt playing in the finals at home in your hometown, knowing a professional championship hadn't been won. If you win, you're on the cusp of something no other pro team had ever been able to do in St. John's. I mean, how do you try and, I guess, silence all of that and just go out and play hockey?
Yeah, with everything you just said, we just tried to take it one game at a time. We couldn't think about all that. And it was in the back of our head for sure, but we just had to focus on that game one, then game two. But, I mean, the city, I'd never seen the city like that before. St. John's was absolutely rocking. It was amazing to be a part of. And also, I got to give a shout-out to Toledo's fans. That's the loudest barn I've ever played in, I think.
It's wild. I agree. And Jards, I want to get your take on that too. Obviously, I know that you ended up being a real big fan of Newfoundland, but talk about kind of that moment and the fans and the finals and that kind of summing up your Newfoundland experience. I mean, that was pretty extra.
Yeah. I mean, that was game 1 and 2 was so emotional too. Did they both won in overtime? I think.
Yep.
Game 1 and 2. Yeah. So those games just in and of themselves, just the on ice content was super exciting to be a part of. But then you add on top of the fact, I think like there was another level that you wouldn't expect, that the city really embraced you now that we were in the finals. And so that was super cool. And I mean, we took that momentum into Toledo, and like Zach said, and I think even Pards, who had played in NHL buildings, like he played in the Bell Center and the Saddle Dome, and you know what I mean? And Pards was like, that's the loudest I've ever heard a rink. And,
Are you serious?
Coming from a guy with however many NHL games, Pards, you know what I mean? All that experience, he's like, that building was nuts. So, I mean, that was an extremely difficult environment to play in. And the fact that we came away with one spoke, I think, to the character of our group to really hunker down and make sure we were coming back to St. John's with the lead in series.
I want to jump in on game 4. That was the only game of that final series that a road team managed to win, a 4-2 win. Zach, I'm curious, what do you remember about that? Losing the day before, maybe shaking off the rust or the overwhelming atmosphere of Toledo and getting back to Growlers hockey. What do you remember about game 4 and that win?
I just remember going into the dressing room after it and how fired up everyone was to steal one in their building. Like you said, we dropped the first game there, and it kind of shocked a lot of guys with what kind of atmosphere that is. I mean, I remember I started the game with my line, and we were trying to talk, and we couldn't hear each other, so we just went and lined up. Like,
wow,
you couldn't hear each other talk. It was crazy. But to steal that next game, I think did Ruby score in that game?
Yeah, I remember Gio took it down the left and kind of paused and waited, and Rubes jumped in. The only goal he had scored since opening day was a game-winning goal in the finals on the road in that crazy building. Yeah.
Crazy. That was awesome to see Ruby score a big goal like that. His improvement over the year was fun to see for a young guy. At first, he was just trying to feel his way in, but from then to watching him in the finals was a crazy improvement, and he just signed an NHL deal. So that goes to show, from an East Coast deal in 1 year and then 2 years later to sign an NHL deal. I'm so happy for him, and I wish him all the best.
And Jards, I'll come to you for this. So shortly after that, Matt Bradley chipped in kind of a garbage goal from behind the net. Do you remember that 2-goal lead? Bit more off the shoulders, or am I testing your memory here?
Yeah, it tests my memory, but I do recall.
He banked it in, Jards. Do you remember that?
No.
Greasy from Brad's.
I think him and Pick entered the zone, and it kind of went behind the net, and he kind of chipped it, I think, off of Pat Nagel's shoulder, and it went in. Nothing, huh?
He probably did it on purpose, you know. We call it greasy. If you ask him, he probably says skilled.
That's probably true.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to have him on and get his take on that one. So after that win, Toledo did take the second of the 3 games in their building to send us back home for Game 6, back to Mile One Center, to a place where we had locked down every other series prior. But before even that, Zach, I'm curious if this is a moment that resonated as much for you as it did with me. I remember flying home into Newfoundland. We got our standard arrival time back at the airport of like 2 in the morning or something ridiculous. And there was still like 100 more people at the airport as we were coming down that escalator. Zach, like, do you remember that feeling? Because that was the moment that, like, oh, damn, this is for real. The city's got our back, and we're about to do something special. Did you have kind of the same vibe?
Yes, absolutely. I remember it like it was yesterday, coming on the escalator and seeing all the fans there in the middle of the night. It was pretty cool, and it struck like, all right, let's finish this off in Game 6. Like, let's celebrate.
Cards, I mean, what was that experience like for you? I know you'd already gotten to know the city a lot, but I mean, that's overwhelming every time you get the chance to take something in like that.
Yeah, it was so cool. We were playing for something way bigger than ourselves. I think a lot of guys, realized. It helped, obviously, having so many guys from Newfoundland on our team, like Obi, Pards, Mel, Howe. Those guys, they weren't, I guess, shy about how much it meant to their families, their friends. I remember, like, Obi and Powell needing, like, 50 tickets for the finals. And Trevor Murphy, like, telling guys, like the sold out game, because I can't get any more tickets, but I mean that was really cool.
And obviously, Game 6, the game that ended all, a big lead and a late push by Toledo. Zach, do your best to sum up Game 6 for us, because that's, I know, it's a long day and a big one. A lot of stuff happened that day. What do you remember about the game?
Game 6, I remember the line of Hudson, Gio, and Kess kind of took over that game for us. I feel like that was that line's best series of the playoffs for sure.
Sick forwards.
Yeah. I would say that. Obviously, our whole decor are studs. They played so well the whole playoffs. Let us do our thing and know that if we do make a mistake, that they got our back always, because it's so sound defensively. But I remember Gio, Kess, and Ellie kind of took the game over and scored some big goals. Gio, obviously all regular season, he was a great player, and it was his first year, and you can already tell he's going to have a long career. But the way he played physically in the playoffs, I wasn't ready for it, honestly. He probably led our team in hits as a forward, I would say.
That's wild. And Jards, I mean, I want your take too. I mean, especially on Gio's couple of goals in Game 6. I mean, no one is stopping those.
No. We actually they played Game 6 over again on Facebook.
Oh,
and
what?
Yeah, Rogers TV on Facebook. Yeah, I think it was Ellie that actually sent out the link, or somebody was watching. Oh, Todd Skirving. How could I forget?
Of course it was Skirving.
Yeah. So we have this unbelievable chat that we have, and Scurv sends out that he's watching it, and I quickly jumped on to watch. Now we're sending like snaps back and forth. I remember Brad's took this penalty, and so we're all getting on him about taking a bad penalty at this point of the zero. And so it was a lot of fun to go back. So I've actually watched all of Game 6 in its entirety quite recently. One thing that I would mention is Alan Doyle coming out to sing "Oh Canada," and I might get crucified for this, but there's the song of Newfoundland, essentially.
Ode.
Okay, the Ode to Newfoundland. Yeah, I mean, that was because they didn't play Ode to Newfoundland. That was the first time I'd ever heard that song right before Game 6, and it's just chills city on the blue line with the whole, whatever, 3,000. Oh my goodness, man. They're like an absolute packed mile one center singing Ode to Newfoundland. There's flags going on. Like, it was nuts. And then like I said, it's fun playing with six forwards. They just took over that game. Gio made 2 of every level of hockey, and we took off. I mean, we just handed that game over to our disgusting goal-scoring forwards. It's so nice to play with.
Zach, on your side of things, I'm going to be honest with me. When Toledo started pushing back late in the third, was there ever any knee-knocking moments there?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a little bit nerve-wracking. They knew the playoffs, the finals were on the line for them. If they lost, they were done. So they really put a push on. And, I mean, it's the end of 4 series. Everyone is gassed, but you find a way to keep going and keep going.
They were an unbelievable team, too.
They were.
Like, they brought something out of us that, they brought out a level of hockey in us that we had not even come close to scratching before. Like, they were a very, very good team.
I would agree with that for sure.
Absolutely, they were, and obviously after that holding down, before we get into the fun part and all the celebrations and all of the hazy memories we all have from that week or months, if you're me, Sam, I want to get your take on this. I know you know Matt Register real well, and you know how heavy his shot is. How brave is Zach for jumping in front of that clapper from Matt Register in the last couple seconds there?
Yeah, Reggie was, it's like I said, they were an incredible team. And, Matt Register might be one of the best, if not the best, ECHL player of all time. Like, honestly, he's the first team All-Stars. He's been in Kelly Cup MVP the year that we won it in Colorado. He's got to be a point per game player in hundreds of ECHL games. And he was a threat every time he was on the ice as a defenseman, and only up 1 goal in the last seconds of the game. He had it in prime territory to tie that game up. And we had guys like Obi just sprawling out on the ice to make sure we were clinching. I mean, a guy that we haven't mentioned yet is Darian Plouffe. Plouffe, same thing.
But Zach, I want to get your take on final Game 6, and then your thoughts on Plouffe, because we absolutely have to mention that. But do you remember what was going through your mind? The last 5 seconds are ticking off the clock. Mel tried to pin the backboards, it ringed around, and you just launch yourself in front of it. Like, what went through your head in that moment, or do you even remember?
I do remember it, actually. I watched it a lot. I think Brad's had it on a stick behind the net. Miller was in a puck battle. It bounced to Brad's. And I think he thought we had a winger on the wall. I think. Brad's, he's a defensive center. He always makes the right play. So there was obviously a reason behind what he did. And it ended up bouncing to Reggie. And all our wingers were collapsed. So I had some space to make up. And I don't know if it was like a textbook block shot. I wouldn't shot up like that, but I just threw my whole body in front of the board. I honestly don't know where it hit me. I didn't feel it because I knew that at that point the game was over. I just wanted to celebrate. but it definitely hit me. And, I mean, the feeling after that, I think it still ended up getting to the net like a second later, no? Or
it was still pretty scrambly, but actually I think once you blocked it rolled back into neutral ice and then everyone went berserk. But I do think that may have been like as time expired. We'll go, Jards, back to you, and let's talk about Plouffer in Game 4 and that big win. I didn't mean to graze over that, but how many shots did that poor little dude eat? 3 or 4? Most of them off of Register's stick again? What do you remember about that sequence?
Yeah, well, that was a massive win. Like we did touch on how important it was to steal one in Toledo and take the lead back. And we crawled out of Game 4 with that W, literally and figuratively, because like Plouffer blocked about 6 shots on that one penalty kill. But yeah, it was hard to win in that building. It was just, and they were equal to the task with our skill, and they were just a good hockey team. Like we played 6 near perfect games and only won 4. You know what I mean? There was drop off in our execution or preparation or focus in the 2 games we lost. Also, it was so close to the margins, and big plays like Plouffe had in Game 4 were the reason that we were able to steal a game out of Toledo.
Zach, same question. What's your reaction when you see Plouffer just getting murdered with pucks?
It was amazing to watch, really, but he's been doing that all year. We don't win that championship without guys like Plouffer. He does all the little things right. Not everyone talks about it. We've been talking about big goals and big plays, stuff like that, but he made plays like that every game that not everyone touches on. So shout out to Plouffer. I love the way Plouffer plays. I love his game, and I take him on my team any day. But all the little things, guys like Plouffer, Brads, Pick, Todd, guys like that to just work hard every day. Still able to chip in offensively for sure, but they do a lot of little things that go unnoticed, and we wouldn't be champions without them.
And champions indeed. What do you remember about that night after winning? Obviously, it's a big party. That party spilled into the week. Sam, I know I keep coming back to this, that you're a big fan of Newfoundland, but I know you were an even bigger fan by the time you ended up having to pack up and go home.
Yeah, and throughout that entire playoff run, I knew that we had the group to do it, and I had made a personal decision to not let any off-ice distractions get in the way of that, occurring. So it has sort of been a long time coming to go out and have some fun for myself personally. I almost want to throw the question back at you, Bals, because you were right there with us for the whole week. So you can go ahead and tell the stories, Bals, because it was in that following week. We might have done a couple of interviews together, but that's how you and I became so close, was in the week following.
That's true. Among the pictures that we had been sharing back and forth, you shared an album of which, and John, we're going to throw one of them up here shortly. One of them was a photo I had completely forgotten about, of you and me in a selfie. I think we had enjoyed maybe one too many of our sponsors' products in that photograph. But so thanks for that. But I'm going to come right back to Zach and try and get away from that question altogether. Thanks, Jards. Zach, obviously winning MVP after an incredible run. That had to have been important for you. I know you don't like talking about yourself too much, but I'm going to make you do it here. How special was that for you to have that be maybe the cherry on top of winning your province's first ever pro title? Sum it up.
Yeah, it was definitely special. MVP is just that's just an award. We had a bunch of guys that could have won it. Jared's played probably 25, 30 minutes a night on the back end against other teams' best players. Gio had a great playoffs. Fergie, there's a lot of guys. I don't want to miss anyone, but there's a lot of guys that definitely could have been up for the award as well. But the most important thing is that we won, and the celebrations after. I don't think, as a team, we didn't leave each other's side for 3 or 4 days at least, probably more.
No kidding. Now, and I know on that whole run to the finals, I know music played a really big part in all of that. And first things first, John, I'd like to throw up the photo. Is this a photo of you two on stage with Damien Follett?
Yeah.
Yes, certainly. One of my best memories of my life.
Where was this taken? Because I'm not sure all of my memory is entirely there either. Jards, I'm looking at you. You were the one who sent me the photo, I think. Give me the backstory here, because this is just a great photo.
Well, the boys love Damien. I think probably Todd Skirvin can be most given credit for that. But yeah, we spent a good amount of time in Greensleeves after wins, similar to the story that I told about Fort Wayne. So it was a hangout spot for us, and that was one of the first places that we took the Kelly Cup to. And that night, Damien called us up, and he was playing our favorite tune of the playoffs was Brian Wilson, and by the Bare Naked Ladies. So he had me and Zach go up there, sing it along with him, and it's one of the best memories of my life. Thankfully, there's no video evidence of it, but there are some great photos, and it's just an awesome memory.
Zach, why Brian Wilson? Is there a story there? Because I remember for the next 2 weeks after we won, that's the only song I couldn't get out of my head.
Well, it's a banger for sure. Bare Naked Ladies, Brian Wilson. Everyone in the chat, once this is all over, click on Brian Wilson. You won't hate it, that's for sure. But Brian Wilson. Obviously, it's an old song, and I've heard it before, but I think it was after one of the games. You can send a request into Damien, Dave White, the guys that are playing, and I was with one of my buddies, actually, not one of the guys on the team, just one of my friends from Newfoundland, and he was yelling, "Play Brian Wilson." I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but sure, I'm down. Anyways, he plays Brian Wilson, and I just love it. My buddy's belting it out. I'm like, all right, I feel this. This is deadly. So I started playing in the dressing room. Everyone got on board with it. Every time we go to Greensleeves, we're yelling. They're playing Brian Wilson probably 10 times in a night. Guys are singing every song. Dave and Damien are both loving it. So it just happened to be our song. And, I mean, I still listen to it all the time. I don't know about you, Jared.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I'll never switch that song. I mean, it was so authentic, too. And I think the St. Louis Blues that year got so much publicity with. I just wonder if a team will ever be able to hang on to a song like that so authentically. It was so genuine the way that it sort of just grabbed our group, and it had nothing to do with the St. Louis Blues, because that had not really got into the mainstream media yet. So that was our deal. I mean, we would, that would be something we would play as a victory. We would also play a lot of Motley Crue before games, because the movie The Dirt had come out, I think, that Christmas. And so we started going on a winning streak by playing Kickstart My Heart and stuff like that. So there's, I could make a playlist of probably 15 or 20 songs. And the other thing too, Heave Away, after we won in Florida, and the entire barn is singing Heave Away, and you're out on the ice, doing one of these, it just, a place like Newfoundland, the musical culture, it just goes so hand in hand, and I'm a huge music guy. But yeah, so music, sport, Newfoundland, they just go together so perfectly. And I guess Brian Wilson was our song to kind of tie all that together.
I think you should absolutely build us a Spotify playlist of like locker room tunes, and we'll share that out to the fans. So I'll put you to work on that. Zach, the parade was next. What a wild time I'm sure that was for yourself. You know, again, being the local guy, MVP. I mean, what do you remember about that? Because I remember there were fans in places I've never seen people standing in downtown St. John's.
Yes, the turnout for that's one of the coolest days of my life. I would definitely say that. It started off, we were in the dressing room. We were trying to like organize everything. There was like 3 or 4 guys to the back of each truck. So I was trying to figure out, all right, who's going to be my truck? I'm obviously like, all right, Jardine for sure. We haven't met each other's side the whole time. Why stop now? Jards, let's go. And then I grabbed Marcus because I feel like that's a cool moment to spend together. We go way back. So it was me, Marcus, and Jards in the back of the pickup truck, driving around downtown St. John's. So many people there. The turnout was incredible. We had NTV News in the back of the truck with us too.
No way.
Around, so we had to be sharp, let's say. But it was just a really cool experience. And when we got up on stage, the only time I've seen people like that, not near as many people now, but to see that stage packed like that is for George Street Fest when there's a lot of bands playing and stuff like that. But to be up on the stage and everyone there looking at us, it was definitely a really, really cool moment.
And Jards, one of my favorite memories from the parade is you with the Newfoundland flag basically dead center on the stage in the middle of George Street and just giving her with that flag. That was clearly a big day and a big moment for you too. There it is. Flag is in the background. There it is.
That flag right there. I should have got all the boys to sign it. I guess I regret that. But yeah, that was so much fun. At that point, I had lost my voice completely. I could not get a mouse's squeak out of my voice.
Well, I had to talk to the news more about it.
Exactly. So Zach's theory to get me in the back of the truck to do all the talking to the local TV channel. It was hard. I wanted to jump in. She's asking these questions about Zach and his MVP run, and he keeps deflecting, and he's talking about Gartz and goal, and he's talking about Powell holding the ugly stick and everything. And I'm like, I just can't even get the words out to say, like, this guy's being way too humble right now. Like, so that parade was so cool. Just being on that stage and looking out at, something that maybe only some of the most famous musicians to come through for George Street Festival and stuff like that's a scene that I'll never forget. And being able to be on that stage with those guys while those speeches were going on, so cool. It seemed like the whole city came out to celebrate. And it's just another example of just how a neat place St. John's is.
Zach, I mean, any final thoughts here, guys? We've gone through the whole season here. Any moments I'm leaving out here? We went to the Premier's office. Zach, you were there for that, weren't you? That was kind of neat.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, I didn't expect to ever do that. So we all got a picture taken. That was definitely something I'll never forget. But I want to give a shout out to Meller and Pards. We didn't talk about them a whole lot, but 2 hometown guys. They were the main leaders of our team. Meller was captain, but Pards has so much experience, and to come back and play for his hometown when he didn't really need to. He has a great NHL career under his belt. He wanted to play and finish it off here. So to win that for him, I seen him after the game, how happy he was, and it was a really cool experience. And how much he helped me, and that was my seventh year pro, I think it was, and I still learn things from Pards. So for the young guys to have a guy like that to just be a sponge and soak everything in was great for their careers. And not only was he a leader, but he played really good hockey for us, especially in the playoffs. He made plays that probably no one in the league can make on the blue line. So to have him around was huge. And Meller, like I said, we didn't really get along back in the day, but he's an unbelievable friend, an unbelievable captain. He'd do anything for anyone on our team, whether it's the best player or one of the weaker players. Doesn't matter. He's he's stepping up for you, doing whatever it takes to win. So shout out to Mellor and Pards, two unbelievable guys and unbelievable teammates.
Mm-hmm. Jards, keep that thought going. I mean, give a shout out to the team. I know it's a short show and we're trying to talk about as many guys, but I mean, talk about how special a group this is. Keep that rolling.
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback off of Mel and Pards, because he's right. We didn't talk about him nearly enough. And, you know, when you were asking me to think about some stuff, some of the first things that would come to mind that don't necessarily are exciting stories, but what I believe are some of the most important team building processes is, you know, getting together after hours. And it was always Mel and Pards that were offering to have guys come over. We had this massive steak dinner over at Pards' place. I think it was before the finals. We had taco nights at Mellor's place, just open invite, whoever wants to come. And those are the kind of things that get you over the hump from a very good team to a championship level team, to have guys in that leadership position going above and beyond for their teammates. And you almost have to have a perfect group as far as skill and chemistry and coaching and organization and volunteers, all that sort of stuff. And you know, we had that. Everything came together at the right time. And man, I mean, it's and now, you know, now more importantly, you got you know, guys like me and Zach gonna be friends for the rest of our lives. And you know, that's the kind of stuff, and not only just me and him, but guys on the team as well, the rest of the teammates. And I mean, that's the biggest thing that I'm going to take away from all of it. And like, we're going to have to do another show in 2 or 3 years just to talk about our 5-year reunion and a 10-year reunion. We might just have we might find an excuse. We'll just have like a 3 years, 14 days and 7-hour reunion and just go off of that.
I'm down with that. We'll do this every week. I do have a question in the Twitch chat for you, Jards. Paul Loader asks, any plans on returning to Newfoundland for a vacation in the future? I know you brought your parents here, and John will fire that photo up there if we can here in the last minute. I know the whole fam had a blast here. Any plans on coming back in once we're all safe to travel?
Yeah, I do want to come back. I want to come back for George Street Festival very badly, because like I said, I'm a huge music fan. Play a little bit of guitar myself. Who knows? Maybe even if we figure out who's running that festival, we could get me playing guitar and Zach could sing a Taylor Swift song up on stage.
Yeah, I heard no Taylor Swift played in the room. I had her name written down. I know we're all big T-Swift fans. Where's the connection there?
You want to take this, Charles, or?
It was just one of those viral tags on Instagram. Zach nominated me to share my 4 favorite albums, and I put Taylor Swift's first album 4 times. It's just that good.
I mean, it's a great disc. Zach, you can't, that's the right answer, right? You got to agree with that.
I mean, to be honest, at that time, I wasn't listening. I used to listen to her all the time back in the day. And then when I nominated Jardine, I had 4 rap albums, you know? I listen to a lot of rap personally. So I nominate Jards, and it's 4 of the same albums. So I'm like, what is this? I click on it. It's Taylor Swift. I started listening to old school Taylor Swift, and I was like, wow, like, I actually miss these tunes. I still know them all. And I can honestly say I listen to at least one Swift song a day, at least. ever since then. I get in the car, I got no shame in throwing out some Taylor Swift.
Oh, my go-to karaoke jam is You Belong With Me. So when the dust settles here, Obes, you, me, and Marcus, we're heading down to karaoke. Cops, first round's on me.
All right, I'm down.
All right, I think that's going to do it here for this episode of Growler Hour. We'll have you guys back on again. This was too much fun. Many thanks to Zach O'Brien and Sam Jardine. Thanks, fellas, for having some fun here tonight.
Thanks, Val. I appreciate it.
Thanks, pals. We'll see you soon, man.
And folks, don't forget, make sure to smash that follow button. Keep your eyes peeled on the Growlers social media channels for all kinds of fun stuff coming down the pipe over the next couple of weeks. Don't forget, next week, we've got Hockey Night in Canada legend, hometown hockey, Rogers. It's Ron McLean, John Snowden. You're not going to want to miss it. I'm Chris Ballard. Thanks again to John back at headquarters, Kenny back at headquarters. We're going to thank Sam Jardine, Zach O'Brien, everyone out there. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next Thursday and this Saturday on Rogers. Good night.
What do you at, boys? Chris Ballard here, the Growlers. Join me every friggin' Saturday. The Growler Hour is going to be deadly.